We're here, Rusty. What's going on?
Just happy to be here, man.
Cool. Hey, I had a question before we get started. Have you
Yes.
ever had uh, a situation where you communicated at work where it was just frustrating, maybe with an employer or even as a boss? Have you ever had a frustration?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time, right? Like not being on the same page or the communication doesn't take place and people think that it does. Yeah, how every day. Like communication's a common in all my coaching that I hear all the time.
You ever worked with a CEO that struggles in communicating their vision and their message down to everybody to the bottom?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because where they are as a CEO and where their people are is two different places. And you can't communicate or coach from where you are. You have to go to where they are. And that's hard sometimes for us as upper level to step down. We think they need to come to us instead of us going downhill. And we can talk, and we'll talk more about that today here, I think. But yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So communication is a huge piece in the business world or in your workplace. Would you agree?
I think communication is probably the biggest piece there is everywhere and takes the most blame for everything. Because you and I, when we go into places, people are like, oh, we have a communication problem, or we just can't get on the same page, or they're not listening. And we blame communication for so much. And in reality of it, um, there's a thousand ways to communicate, and we still miss the mark.
Yeah, we're going to talk about today. I think if you're joining us, you're probably hearing right away today's topic is about communication. So if you're listening, you're a CEO, you're a leader, you're an influencer. If you have a team of 10 people or more in your business, today we're going to talk to you about how to keep the circles connected, how to cascade those messages from the top down. I think being a leader in my field and also just having all those mistakes where we've hit walls, it's because of communication. But before we get started, Rusty, it's been a while since we've been on. You want to introduce us, and then we're going to jump into this awesome topic. It's going to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Coach Burnside, and with me is Coach Cox, and together we've come together to create what we call our flagship program. That's a Courage to Lead Different for organizations. Obviously, our flagship and where our sweet spot is, I guess, if you will, is working with those organizations that are about 10 to 50 employees, and they're just kind of struggling and what I call to get out of the trenches for the leader because they are so ingrained in the trenches that they don't have programs and systems. And if they either walk away today, their business really kind of shuts down until they get back. If you're that type of business owner, you know exactly who I'm talking about, that you've created yourself a really good job and now you want to create a business. And if you want to do that, that's our specialty. Of course, from that, we do a lot of things that come up. You know, people want us to go speak here, people want us to talk on this topic or subject. But anyway, our flagship program is that. And, you know, we've been doing this together. I've been in this space for over 20 years. Same with Matt. And we just love being in this space and being able to coach and help business owners and entrepreneurs make that next step. So it's kind of
Yeah.
our space, our specialty. But nonetheless, you're here today,
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about communication. So we're excited about that.
Well, before we jump in, I want to ask this is, you being in this communication as we've created this consulting company where we go in and help these leaders, you've owned a lot of businesses, right? You
Yes.
have to be on this platform, just so if somebody's listening, this is not just Rusty that decided he was going to be a coach. What kind of you've been a GM, a construction leader, owned a construction company, owned other businesses. What else? A mechanic shop.
Yeah, I've been a pretty much a jack of all trades, master of very few, right? That's what it seems like. But yeah, I come with a lot. I still operate a couple businesses
Yes.
today, coaching a lot of businesses.
Right.
It's my world. You know, just as you are, Matt. You're an entrepreneur still to this day, so we live it. It's not like, oh, here's my ideas and suggestions. I hope they work. I feel your pain probably more than anybody because I live that pain. I know exactly what it's like. You know, when people come to me and say, hey, you know, I'm struggling with my employees. I know what you mean. Like, I know what you mean, right? The difference is I spend all day breaking that down and trying to figure out the systems to make it better. They don't. Like, that as a CEO, that's not, you're in the people business, but you don't think about that system all day. That's all I think about all day is how do I make things better? How do we make this communication better? Which we're going to talk about today, right?
Yeah.
How do I make people better? How do I maximize? I have a 3-part system. is to master, maximize, and unify. And that's to master myself, maximize others, and unify teams. And everything I do in life is around those three things.
So, so to ask a question, we'll jump into the topic, but I just want them to listen. So if they're leaders, why would they hire somebody like us to coach them, to guide them? What? Because maybe I've never had a coach. Some of our clients, they didn't know how to deal with coaching, right? Because they've never been coached.
Great.
Speak to that quick.
Great question. Why would you hire anybody? Not even just us, why would you hire somebody? And you got to hire the right person, obviously. That's the first challenge of the deal. But yeah, because number one thing, there's a segment I do all the time on champion your hard. We do hard things in life. And the difference between good and great is knowing how to do hard things. And my number one thing that I always talk about in there, the C stands for being coachable. And when you hire other people, when you bring other people into your circle, you first and foremost are admitting and lowering your pride enough that you can let somebody else in to help and coach you and guide you and direct you. Because I can tell you that I'll see things from the outside that you do not see on the inside. That's what coaches do. That's what good coaches do. Number one is there that new set, that refreshing set of eyeballs. But most importantly, the second part is they're going to hold you accountable to move the needle. That's what we need as people, right? Like me personally, I'll admit, like this is one of the biggest things I ever had to figure out is I'm not great at holding myself accountable. I will go to the gym a lot easier if I know somebody's waiting for me. Does that make sense?
That's
Like
true.
just how it is, I mean, I get up and practice and do things if somebody's waiting for me a lot easier. And if I got to report to this coach every week or every month, I'm going to do things different. I'm going to start changing things. And so why should you? Why would you hire us? I mean, yeah, we've got a resume. That's one thing. But even at the end of the day, somebody that's going to help you see the vision you want and then hold you accountable to make those changes. Because to grow, we have to change. And change is hard. But the most important part about change is accountability.
Yeah, I just love to see when my leaders that I coach have aha moments. They actually say, "Oh, I wasn't doing it that way." And sometimes when you're in that tunnel vision, that's what a coach does. They pull them out. They help you see it. They help you see the systems. But I'm excited. Let's jump into this. This is a good topic. I think as long as they know what we do and they understand what they're going to get as they listen to this, and if you're at this point, you're gonna walk away with something today. So, Rusty, kick us off in communication here. There we go. I got it on the bottom. Hopefully, I spelled it right.
Looks good to me. Looks good to me. So, yeah, communication. It's a big topic because it gets blamed. Like I said earlier, it gets blamed for everything, right, Matt? Like you'll be in a meeting and it's like, oh, we got to communicate better, or that wasn't communicated. But I think where people mess up, I know where people mess up is we confuse the forms of communication with actual communication. So let's talk about forms of communication first and foremost, because this is where the majority of us think communication takes place is in the form. So what's some forms of communication like text? What else is there?
Emails. I think in the workplace, people rely on their emails a lot. I'll share a story.
Emails.
Yeah, emails.
Too big of a crutch, right? Like nonverbal communication, we would call these nonverbal in a sense because we're not having a conversation like this. Videos of communication. Zoom today is a huge tool. It's a tool, right? Like it's a way to communicate. It's a means of how to communicate, but it doesn't mean it is communication. It's just the vehicle that we use, right? Body language says a lot. Somebody's probably out there. There's some professional body language person right now reading you and me, Matt, and they're making fun of our body language and whatever. but that's the thing you're going to get here is real. I'm beyond this whole hype and crap that goes on in the world. I'm pretty real. Like I don't care. I mean, I care, but I don't know how to say that. But it's just people are so anyway. That's a form of communication too, right? My social platform. This is who I really am. No, you're not. It's not who you are.
Yeah.
That's who we are for those 20 seconds on social media. Or that minute I'm going to get all hyped up and dressed up for my video and be the person I'm not. Like that's a form of communication, right? Like we're communicating who we want people to perceive us as, but at the end of the day, we're not. So think about that in the workforce. What do people want to be perceived at? And at the end of the day, what do your people perceive you as? How big's that, Matt?
I think it's your style. Let's talk about style of communication. Let's jump on that a little deeper because I think it is what you said. It's how you perceive. Like I know your style of communication as a leader. You know mine, and I think that's a big thing. How does style affect us in our workplace? Like you have a really good explanation to this, Coach Rusty or Burnside. You really go in and teach this. So let's jump into this because I think this would be a golden nugget why we communicate the way we do. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of styles, and basically there's a style we're going to use all the time or a hat that we're going to wear. And being a coach for all these years, and even in sports, being a coach, I kind of picked this up from there is where I brought it. And then I brought it into the workforce, and I realized as a coach, and you know this too from being a coach, that there's all these positions here, and a couple of them. One of them is you have the fan, right? There's the fan that's always out there, and they have a great way of communicating. Um, and you understand, and you're laughing because that was kind of a joke, by the way, in case somebody missed it. But their communication style is very one way,
yelling,
correct?
yeah,
But fans are important. Don't get me wrong. You know, we all need some applaud. We need somebody to cheer us on, and so there's the fans in this whole system by all means. And then there's the players. The players are important. So think about your organization. You know, you have these people with these personalities. There's this one person that's always the fan in the meeting. Think about the meetings all the time that you have that one person. You're going to recognize these people. And then you have the player, the one person that can't give up the jersey, that always has to be doing it. They don't know how to communicate it other than to just do it. And
mm-hmm.
then we put them in a leadership position because they were great doers and they're horrible leaders,
Because they control it.
right? Because they control it. They can't give trust. They can't delegate. They don't know how to go back to where their people were. They just coach or they teach or they lead from where they are. So there's that person, you know, which is okay. We just need to understand that we need to adjust them a little bit, or how are we going to communicate with them, or what's their communication style. And then there's the manager. There's the manager, the person that can't do anything but just manage. They just check boxes. When I hear of a manager, I think of somebody that checks boxes.
Mm-hmm.
They just manage you until you get it done. They watch over you. They don't give you space. They don't give you room. And they're pretty dry and pretty cut to the point. Their emails are very like, hey, Matt, I need you to get this done by 3 o'clock today. Instead of, hey, this is on our agenda, Matt. Wondering if you have this on your radar. What do you need help with? Like, see, that's the email was just a vehicle. It wasn't the communication. It was just the vehicle that we used. And so there's that manager. And then the other person that we have in there, of course, is the coach.
Yeah.
And then we have the leader. And the leader and the coach go back and forth quite often for me. This is the lane that I try to cross back and forth. So as a coach, I'm going to put my arm around you and I'm going to say, hey, how can I help you, Matt? How can we help move this forward? And I'm going to go to where they are. And as a leader, I'm kind of more of the visionary person. So I talk about summer basketball. Summer basketball, I don't have to be as much a leader. Summer basketball is just about being a coach. It's my favorite time because there's no wrong, there's no right. It doesn't matter if we really win or lose. We're just working on stuff. We're trying to better the program. And then come season, I have to be the first of the season, I have to be the leader. What's our vision? What does it look like? What is our goals this year? What are we working towards? And then during the game, sometimes you have to be a manager. You call the timeout, there's 3 seconds left. And it's like, Matt, you will set a screen like this. And then you will roll here, and then you're going to catch a ball and pat. Like, it's a manager. I don't give them much freedom sometimes. And so you're always crossing these lanes. And there's times I'm a fan as a coach, right? Like, I'm cheering my players on the best I can. But one thing that I will tell you, in practice, I used to play a lot. I'm old now, so my body doesn't cash the checks, my mind right. So I don't even I miss those days of playing. But when I first started coaching, that's how I coached, was a player. And I
Mm-hmm.
did not help my kids at all because I just played with it, and so anyway, I hope that's your forms and your styles of how you communicate in the positions you're going to wear. So think about those for a moment. Where do you spend most of your time?
Sure.
And if I'm trying to communicate and be a leader, I can't be a player. Like, I can't be the guy that's like, oh, well, let me just show you how to do it. Do you have that person in your organization, Matt? That guy that's like, hey, we're going to do this. And then all they do is just push you out of the way and show you.
Yeah, I think we have all those personalities. I think the issue I've seen even with our clients, Rusty, is that if I'm a CEO and I think I'm an excellent communicator, I used to do this as a leader. Dave Ramsey says this, when I was younger. When I first got into being a leader, I sucked. I sucked at it. I was terrible at it. I was too nice. I would try to help people too much. My wife was my business partner at the beginning, and she would say, "Hey, you got to stop being so nice." So my communication style was more like a cheerleader, right? And
Yes.
so I just added a new one in there. In that theory, is I was more like, "Hey, you can do it," and I'd believe, and then I'd be let down. So I had to learn to flip my accountability chart around a little bit and create an accountability chart, or the flow chart that we have in our organization. We don't, remember, as we teach our people, we don't prescribe to a flow chart. We turn it into an accountability chart. We help them understand the seats. And I think that's what you're asking too, is a lot of times the CEOs will think, or the chief operator will say, hey, they should just know this. Why do I have to chase them? I shouldn't have to communicate to them. I sent an email. Why aren't they responding to me? And I always asked the individual we're coaching, I says, that we're in the 20th century where everybody has ADHD, right? Because they have so many devices, they have 5 phones. And so, as leaders, that's why our whole thing is the courage to lead differently. And the reason it is, to answer the question, Rusty, is that you have to change. You have to change the way you lead now and become awesome communicators with the new generation. Wouldn't you agree, Rusty? This generation's different. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think yeah, absolutely. It's different, and we have to be better. We
Yeah.
have to be better as leaders. If we take on that responsibility or that role or that title, we have to be better. And here's the thing: we are humans. We will
Yeah.
always take the easiest path. It's the bottom line. Like, you have to work on not taking the easiest path. It's called discipline. It's called hustle. It's called work ethic. It's called, like, whatever. Does that make sense? Like, that's what this world is still about. There's land of opportunity, but it takes a little harder work
Yeah.
and communication to be a great communicator. So people want to title themselves as, here's the difference. There's communication, and then there's great communication.
That's
And
great.
great communicators, like you said, here's what happens. Here's to tell if you're a great communicator or not a great communicator. See, I had I've been around mean people in my life, and they communication style, you would say they weren't good, right? Like, if you were to rate them or rank them, you would say they weren't good because of their delivery, their approach. They were very dry. They were very straight to the point. And I'm sure you're very aware of that person, but in my space, there was a lot of those people. And their communication delivery was what I would call just above awful, like, at the most, right? Like, just barely above awful. And so, with that being said, they still communicated because why? They made sure things got to the finish line. And that's our responsibility as a communicator, not to just deliver the message, not to send the message, but more importantly, is to make sure the message was received, number one. So that doesn't mean, oh, they opened it, Matt. I got the thing here. I see it on my box that they opened the email. It's good enough. And good enough is neither, right? So what you have to do is you have to say, look, in order for communication to take place, did Matt actually go do it? If he didn't, I know this seems like management or babysitting, but at
Yeah.
the end of the day, to be a great communicator, we send another email or we send another text or we make another phone call or we talk to him in the hall or whatever and say, hey, I'm just noticing that, this isn't quite complete yet. What's going on? Where can I help you? Is there something? And as a leader, you're frustrated. I get that. But once you establish that you're going to follow up and that you're going to make sure that it gets done, Matt's attitude starts changing and Matt starts taking more responsibility because he knows that Rusty will follow up until communication has taken place. So in basketball, for instance, I coaching basketball, me passing the ball to the next guy, that's part of the communication. I got the ball out of my hands to them, but here's the thing, Matt. Did I give it to him in stride? Did I give it to them where they could use it? And you being a soccer coach in your life, did I throw it behind them? Did I throw it ahead of them? Did I throw it too far past them? Or did I not even get it close enough? Well, I threw the pass. It's their problem. They got to run under it. No, like I
Yeah.
have to throw it where they can take it in stride. And if they catch it and make the move and score, that then is communication. Just not getting them the ball is not communication. Communication is when they get the ball and they make the move and score. Does that
Yep.
make sense?
It
Yeah.
does, and I think it goes to a saying I teach when it comes to communication in the organizations is we have to learn to let go of the vine, delegate to elevate, but also an exchange of understanding. I understand you, you understand me. You know my needs, and part of that is if I understand what you're saying as a leader, and I ask the questions because it's my job as the leader to make sure you understand as the employee. It's not your job as an employee to understand me because I'm
Going
the
to
one.
where they are.
Yeah, I'm the visionary. I'm the entrepreneur. If you're the business owner, if you're the VP, if you're the manager, you have to create that vision. So the exchange of understanding that Coach Burnside is saying is once you get the ball, you have to then follow up. How many times do you have to tell them? 7 times 7. You got to tell them, hey, this
That
is
is
where
true.
we're headed.
Yeah.
Where I think I've noticed a lot of leaders when it comes to communication, well, I've already told them. Why do you have to tell them again? And they get frustrated because it's your vision, it's not theirs. And especially today's workforce and today's employee base, that they can pretty much go get a job anywhere. And so they have to understand that it's really important to keep the vision going. So personality types again, Coach Rusty, is as you said, when they get the ball, I have an exchange of understanding. I know your reason why you're wanting me to do this. It's not like the old days when we would just say, hey, I need you to do this. Okay, yes, I'll get it done, right? What I've noticed now as an employer, everybody wants a purpose. Everybody wants to make sure we have something going on right now. It's called the participation trophy, right? There's a participation trophy going on, which we're talking about sports analogy. And what it is everybody gets a trophy. Um, if you just played the game, I think it was funny what I heard one of my friends that coached. One of the kids got a trophy and they lost. They got a little medal, and the kid's like, Daddy, why did I get the medal? We lost. And it doesn't register for some of them because it's not the right way to communicate the message, right?
Yeah.
And so in our organizations, we still have to have a line of command, knowing that, hey, this is the path of where the issues go, and I understand it and you understand it. So it's called roles and clarity. We have to have our roles clear and our expectations clear, right? And then we have to pass that down. And here's the biggest thing is once you understand me, I let go of the vine, I let you go try, then I come back, and that's where the coaching comes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times, and this is what I'll end on, and I hope that they're hearing this, is that a lot of times I think in our organizations, we as leaders think we communicated awesome. And we realize that we suck sometimes because stress is on us, deadlines are on us, payroll we have to make, all these things that people don't see when you run a business of 10 or more people. You don't realize how stressful it is.
Yeah. No, I agree. A lot there to be said. If I was to sum this up in one sentence for me, delivery can always be better, right? Always can be better. I
I
work
like
on my
that
delivery
delivery.
as much as possible. Could always be better. The means that I use could always be better. Ask. Like I'm telling you, I had guys, I could send them a text, never hear from them. I'd call them, they'd answer their phone immediately.
Let's chat about that real quick. So
So
you said I send a text and they don't respond. How does that frustrate you as a leader?
it doesn't frustrate me at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't frustrate me at all because here's the deal. If they don't like using text and it's not, and believe it or not, there's people that don't. I just
Okay.
had this conversation this weekend with a person that was supposed to come fix something for me that hates text. And he's a young kid.
Yeah.
And you would never assume that, right? Like I pigeonholed him thinking, why is he? And he's like, sorry, I don't do text very well. My boy, I have a boy. One of my boys doesn't do text well. I call him. The other boy, if I want to talk to him, I send him a text. That's my responsibility is to
Mm.
figure out their best way of communication, not my best way.
I
Does
like
that
that.
see what I'm saying? And we want to be like, well, I love sending emails because there's people like, I just love sending emails. Well, I had a salesman at a company. He had over 8,000 emails and 2,000 text messages on his phone. Guess what? I never did again. Emailed him or text him.
I'm laughing because you want to know my emails. I can't even tell you the amount of emails I have. In one email, I'm just going to tell you, it's funny. I have 45,000 emails in one box
There you go. Why
because I'm
would
not,
I email you?
yeah, I'm
Right.
not an emailer.
Yeah.
You know,
And because it's convenient and we've made it better in this world and easier, it doesn't mean it's their mode. It doesn't mean it's their way. And sure, I don't care if you email them, but you still have to make sure you made the connection.
yes.
If I
Got
email you 20 times and you haven't responded or done anything, it
fix
isn't
the
doing me
problem.
good to email you 21.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, we don't, we're not in an era of pagers anymore, right? You can say,
yeah,
hey, did you get, Rusty, did you get my email? Let's talk about it. And
yeah, like,
not to be facetious, but like, if you got to know your audience, right?
yes,
So let's say I'm a good employee, Rusty. You've known me 10 years or more. You know I'm a short bus kid. I can't read or write very well. But do you think I'm a dumb person just because I'd share that now with you?
not at all, right? Like, not at all, because I know who you are. And
Yeah,
I know when I get a text back from you, that some things I have to kind of just Morse code it and figure out what you're trying to say. But I understand that. It doesn't frustrate me or make me mad because I understand who you are. Like, I'm
yeah.
like, oh, okay, this is great. I'm going to ask some clarifying questions or I'm going to make a phone call.
And when you call me and give me a to do I get it done?
Yeah, right. Like we establish those things and it still gets done. Like it's so that's what's frustrating to me is we always want to put the blame on somebody else for bad communication because we're the upper level. They should
Correct.
be wanting to communicate with us.
Correct.
They don't have the same headaches. They don't share the same passions. They don't share the same interests, and that's okay. But especially in the world we live in today, we could go on for hours on this whole retention and retaining and recruiting, but we'll do that in another day. But at the end of the day, like we have to be better.
Yeah.
I'm so frustrated with, and it's what the thing is the story hasn't changed. It's just a different book.
Just
Like
a different.
communication was a problem 150 years ago too. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It just didn't have a big as effect. It didn't seem as simple. Like you used to have to carve it out of a rock. That was a lot harder to communicate to send a letter when it was on a stone tablet versus a text message today. But same problem, right? Message sent, message received. It was the same problem. We still deal with humans and we just got to be better. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know. People are, well, I want to blame my people. No, you got to get better.
Yeah.
As a coach, if my
Yes.
people aren't listening, I don't
Start.
get mad and quit. Like we just run practice longer.
Well,
Right?
there's a saying, so you go, they go.
Yeah.
So you go as a leader, they go. And if your business is dysfunctional and you're having a hard time, and if you're over something, you got to look at yourself, is what Coach Rusty is saying, is step back and say, what am I doing? Don't, because what I keep hearing in the work, it's these employees, we got to hire better. We got to hire better. I'm like, there's no such thing as hiring better. I mean, you can do reference checks. It's not till you deal with them, get to know them, create some relationships with them, because then as a leader, they follow you into battle, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna really find out what it means to be that. Rusty, take us home. What would you leave with those listening? We're hitting 30 minutes. Give us a big gold nugget when it comes to communication and why they should hire you.
Yeah. My golden nugget for communication is we get so focused on the delivery and the method that we forget what communication is. And
Yeah,
communication is when your people make positive yardage, when they actually take your information and move it forward. That's my responsibility as a coach and a leader is to make sure that my people take my information and move it forward. That's it. Bottom line. It doesn't matter how I do it. I can find the best practices. I can use better delivery methods. I can be softer in my approach. I can be bolder in my approach. Whatever. I can be more clear in my approach. Whatever it might be. People get hung up in the spelling of things. It's not even about the spelling, like you said. I could get hung up in the spelling. It's not that. What are they trying to communicate? What am I trying to communicate? Number one, are my people. If you want to know if you're a good communicator, ask yourself when I communicate with somebody, is action taken or action not taken? And if action is not taken 3 out of 10 times, You can blame that person all you want, but at the end of the day, you didn't motivate, you didn't communicate, you didn't influence, and you didn't move them. That's your responsibility. That's our responsibility as a leader. So that's why I would say that, that's where you need to be. And how do you do that? By getting better. And
Yeah.
so you ask, why would you hire us? Why would you hire a coach in general? To get better. Somebody holds you accountable. If you want to work on being a better communicator, communication, number one, is a skill. Skills are taught and learned, and skills can be improved by anybody, not just the elite or not just good born communicators.
Yeah.
Okay.
No such
So
thing, right?
that's my takeaway.
Yeah, no, cool. Well, thank you so much. Hey, so if you're listening, we're excited. We're going to be doing this twice a month. We're going to be jumping on here, communicating some really golden things. And like we told you, think about you as a CEO, as a leader, as an influencer. If you're a business, 5 or more making more than 200,000 a year, we're the coaches for you. We're going to come in and help you organize, streamline, making sure what you need. But just reach out to us. You can go onto our LinkedIn here, message us, get onto our calendar for a free 90-minute session. That 90-minute session is a value of like $250 or more. You're going to walk away with that free session knowing where you're at as an organization. So reach out to one of us. We're excited to share and give something to you every month, and then we'll be posting our own little things throughout the week. That's it. I'm Coach Cox. This is Coach Burnside. If you have any questions for us, we are part of MC Training Consulting Group, and we're excited to serve you. So until next time, Rusty, thank you for your time.
Peace out.
Yeah, we'll take care, guys. We'll talk to you soon.